Apologies for absence. Agenda item 1.
Shall I give the apology to? Yeah, thank you, Chair. Apologies from Councillors Linda James and Kevin Griffiths.
Thank you. Agenda item 2, disclosure of personal and prejudicial interest. Anyone? Silence. Agenda item 3, minutes, to approve and sign the minutes of the previous meeting as a correct record. Have everybody read them, and can you say they're a correct record? Somebody put their hand up, please.
That was... Chair, can I come in there? I
Yeah.
did give apologies for the last meeting, but they don't seem to have been registered.
Okay. Yeah, we'll record those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Francesca, was you approving?
Yeah, I was approving.
Okay. Seconder?
Yeah,
Will you
happy to
put your hand
second,
up?
Chair. Oh, I can't second.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 4, Councillor's Guide handling online harassment, abuse and intimidation. Over to Hugh.
Thank you, Chair. I've put it together, hopefully a useful guide to aid councillors and co-opted members how to handle online harassment, abuse and intimidation. The report in front of you, it just sets out some obvious, hopefully then obvious issues to help you. I'm also, at the end of this meeting, we're going to go into a training session specific to this topic, so we can deal with greater things there. And that training session, I'm going to ask for your comments before I roll it out wider to all councillors. So I'm going to use you as guinea pigs, I know, and thank you for that opportunity to do so. But just to go through the report specifically, I'm highlighting that social media is now a powerful tool for councillors, helping them to engage with communities, raising awareness of community issues, events or council initiatives, and to seek views and receive feedback. So you can see that the power of it. However, it does have a darker side, with online abuse, bullying or trolling having reached record levels, and politicians, particularly women, often being the targets of unacceptable, unpleasant and sometimes threatening online abuse. So this report tries to guide, tries to help on that. I've given a definition to try and be helpful. I've defined harassment as unwanted conduct that violates a person's dignity or creates an intimidating, hostile, degrading, humiliating or offensive environment. Intimidation, behaviour intended to frighten or coerce someone into a submission or compliance. And then abuse being any action that intentionally harms or injures another person. When you read these sort of trolling or bullying or the online abuse, that could have quite difficult impacts on councillors. You can have psychological effects such as stress, anxiety, depression. There's physical effects because it tires you out so much, and you feel you may feel fatigue or illness coming from it. And then, of course, professional effects, that you become less effective because you're almost scared of dealing with what the work you're trying to do within your communities. And I know you all try and work hard within your communities. And of course, the ultimate problem for us, it would be a councillor resigning because of this abuse they're facing. So there's real concerns there. I put hopefully some useful links in the report, in the guide then, setting out the good work that the Welsh Local Government Association has done, and again the good work that the Local Government Association has done. And there are some links there outlining some good practice. I've got in then to the what I thought was quite a useful area created by the Local Government Association, pardon me, the LGA. They've set out what they've called the SHIELD principles, and SHIELD standing for safeguard, help, inform, evidence, let people know, decide. That's the SHIELD. So safeguard, it gives you advice on how to protect yourself online, so that they'll read through the guide and the LGA work. So how to protect yourself online, to avoid you becoming the subject of abuse or threatening behaviour. Then it says about help. So how to ensure that you are safe before you take out further action. So if the threat is not immediate, remember you can contact council officers, or of course contact someone within your own political group to help support you. And we want that support. We want you to have that support as soon as you can. And just to make the point as well, that if you contact me, I can help you get specific help from the council's internal counselling service, because we do take our responsibility quite seriously as a council, and we want to protect officers as well as councillors. Then you've got inform, about telling the individual or the group that you consider, that we as a council or you as an individual consider their correspondence threatening or abusive, intimidating. And there is a growing movement of digital citizenship, which encourages people to call out this poor online conduct. And it's important that we get part of that now, because we really don't want anyone to be feeling this difficult area. Evidence, if you can be taking photos of what you've been sent, recording, screenshots, letters, emails, details of witnesses that would have seen it. It's important that you put this stuff together, because if we do need to go to the police, or you need to go to the police, or what have you, the more information you've got, the more chance we can protect you as councillors. It is serious, and let's be quite clear. Some politicians, unfortunately, sadly, have been murdered, attacked, and what have you, and it's not acceptable. Then it's about letting people know, so reporting the incident to the relevant people according to the nature and severity of the incidents. Be prepared that the police and courts will determine if the incident is intimidation based and the theoretical opinion of the average person. So the police and courts, they've got strict guidelines which they obviously will consider what's happened, and then decide, so determine whether you want to continue receiving communications from the individual or ultimately block them or mute them. As I say, it's protecting yourselves, and you should be treated fairly, like you would treat your constituents in the same manner. And then obviously if we need to pursue any action, again, speak to the council and we'll see what we can do to help there. It goes on the guide then about what you can report. I'm not going to go into that in detail. It asks about who you should, advises rather, who you should report to in paragraph 17. Obviously, you can report via the social media platform. You can report it to the police. You can seek advice from the council's officers, such as the Montreux officer, myself, head of Democratic Services, or indeed your political group leaders. And finally, I've put in what I thought was a useful web link there, which is reportharmfulcontent.com. So a useful name to remember. So it's all about keeping yourselves safe. I've outlined then the specific legislation around these areas, one being the Equality Act, and the Statute Duties Wales Regulations 2011. It gives provisions to prevent harassment and bullying in the workplace, and it requires the employers. I know the council aren't your employers, because you're councillors, but equally we have a duty of care towards you, and it just sets out what is considered forms of discrimination. And then secondly, we have the Digital Economy Act 2017, which requires the government to issue guidance and actions for social media behaviours, what actions they should take rather against bullying, intimidation or insulting behaviour. So there's some useful things there. And then I go on to online resources such as Bullies Out, the WLGA work on personal safety for councillors. There's a handling of online abuse, just useful links which regularly get updated by bodies throughout the UK. So I do suggest you look at those, and obviously if you are in a difficult time online, please seek help from whoever, and we will look to help you. But remember, the specific people to report it to, the platform itself, the police, seek advice from myself or from the monitoring officer, and we will certainly look to help you. I've got nothing else to add to that, but I'm willing to take any questions you may have, because I want to make this, is it in the right format? Does it give you the information you need? Should I put more in there? Because I want to roll this out to all councillors and take it to council in the first instance, but I really want to know any comments that can make it better or more easy to read. I've deliberately kept it relevantly short so that it does get read. 'Cause I find if a document's too long, no one's going to read them. So any comments would be welcome.
Hugh, I will make the first comment
Mm.
because I have had everything that you've put down thrown at me. Been to the police, been to, you know what I went through, and it's got worse over the years. It's better now because when these people put things on Facebook and then accuse your community of support and support to the councillor or whoever, then the community bites back. So that's great. But I think in your report, to me, it's good enough because even though I went through all this, I didn't know you could put it on all these things, because when you're in that state, you're not going to look at things. Stuff has gone to the police, went to the leader, different things. But I think that the report sets it out well enough for me. Hopefully it'll never happen to me again. Anybody else? Got any questions? Or Matt?
No, I think Hugh's sort of hit the proverbial nail on the head with this, I think, and he's right in what he says. If we make it too lengthy and cumbersome, people won't report it. I think it's quite sharp, it's punchy. It gets the message over of if you do experience it, where to go, how to go and get it, and who to go and get it off. So, yeah, all good.
Anyone else? Is that Patience? Patience? I can't see it on there. Patience?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I agree, it's a very comprehensive and straightforward report. Just out of curiosity and for clarity, I think this might be a bit of a technical question maybe, but the definition of abuse, the online abuse that we've got, is that covered? Is that something that was drawn from any piece of legislation, or is it a universally accepted definition? Just out of curiosity.
No, that's fine. The three definitions I've drawn from the LGA work on the subject. So the Local Government Association.
Adam?
Yeah, no, really comprehensive and sort of concise report. One thing I wanted to ask about is, and I'm not sure if this is going to come up in the training, but I think it might be worthwhile to help councillors understand the type of like complaints, nasty comments you're going to get, because as somebody who works in social media, not in another job, like you can categorize the comments are going to be like the comments are going to be from basically real people who are informed and have a specific grievance about anything that you may want to do, sort of real people who are going to be sort of uninformed but might also have a grievance. But then there's also going to be, and this is something that all of us will, as councillors and elected representatives, will be targets of, are basically sort of malicious anonymous campaigns. As somebody who monitors a lot of Facebook and social media and things like that, in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, I've seen a massive uptick in sort of harassment from basically accounts that they're not real people, and that there's something called the dead internet theory, where basically lots of these comments are now bots, and you can have programs that are now sophisticated enough. So while this, in the last 7 days, I've had to report a very real and credible death threat to a member, made against a member of parliament, to the police. So while there are real dangers out there, I think it would be worthwhile if councillors could know that, yeah, there is a lot of stuff that's it's real because you see it and you read it, but it's not coming from real people. It's coming from something a bit more malicious, but also a bit more automated, so that councillors don't need to not necessarily worry. We should all be worried. We should all be vigilant, but we need to basically be able to understand that some of it is coming from people who aren't really in our communities, if you know what I mean, and just if the committee is just aware of that and has any way of incorporating that into the training and the awareness, because I think that's an important part.
Absolutely, and to be honest, I don't cover that. I'll be quite honest with you, but I do accept the bots theory. I will consider that, and with your permission, committee, I will certainly look to put something in before I take the report to council.
Peter?
Thank you, Chair. I think we've all had different types of experiences on this. I mean, obviously, the document's very well written. It covers the main points. I know that we're going to have a dummy or trial pilot training session afterwards, and it might be, you know, worth then spreading or collecting our experiences together, because as you can see, there are many different forms. I mean, fortunately, I've always had a good relationship with the general public on social media. You get I suppose you get the odd one there. I won't say it's particularly targeted. Probably somebody's had a glass of vino on a Saturday night, and then suddenly they get you know, a bit of bravado onto the keyboard. The way I've either dealt with it there is I've either responded courteously, or, you know, we've got our own Facebook page. We've got the Uplands Councillors Facebook page. There are ways of regulating who goes onto the page, like we check off against the electoral roll. If they're not an Uplands resident, they don't come in, and you know, and we find that the behaviour standards and decency and courtesy in communication does in fact rise compared to other, you know, to other pages. Because remember, if you're running a page, you're the moderator of that page. You're in control of it, so it shouldn't be something that makes you frightened. I mean, ironically, the only sort of abuse I get are from activists from other political parties, and you know, I take that with a pinch of salt, because I suppose that's their job in the way. I did have abuse from another councillor about 4 years ago. I just blocked it, and that was that, and my world's a happier place.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else? Francesca?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with what everyone else has said before. I think it's straight to the point here, which is what we all want. I think we're all bombarded with agendas these days, so it's nice just to sort of get straight into the main thrust of the policy. But reading it, you know, in the heading it says Councillor's Guide to Handling Online Harassment, Abuse and Intimidation, just something that probably is covered within it. But also it may not be deemed abuse or harassment or intimidation, but sometimes you can get residents who maybe we don't even represent that become too familiar with us, maybe, if that makes sense. That so although there's probably like an element of intimidation there, I don't think they sometimes mean it in that way. It's only just something I've sort of recently experienced myself, actually, that they're doing it in a friendly way, but actually I could imagine if it was another councillor who, okay, I've learned from my dad being in politics for 50 years, so I've got quite thick-skinned and sort of used to it quite quickly. However, still being a new councillor, if I wasn't so aware of these situations, that in itself can be quite intimidating. So it's trying to, I don't know if that sort of, I think what I'm trying to say is that it's not always about the abuse or harassment or intimidation, but it's that familiarization of somebody following you, being a bit too familiar, even when you're around your family. I don't know if it gets to that point, and so some councillors may not think that comes under this umbrella, but I do think we need to highlight that. I hope that makes sense. It's not an easy subject to talk about, but hopefully that's come across okay.
Yes, indeed. I do understand. I'm not sure how to incorporate that, I'll be honest with you, but I'll certainly consider
it's
that.
hard, isn't it?
I can see what you're trying to say. I do see what you're trying to say.
And only just to sort of put, like, you know, sort of Friday night, I pick the kids up from school, and you have somebody sort of following you home, and even it's when the children are scared. That's when I thought, and it's somebody, you know, that, you know, but you don't represent them. They follow you on social media, and it's that it crosses that line, doesn't it, where you think this is my time with my family, and although they're trying to be friendly, there's that line that it's, and Hugh, I don't know how you're going to put that in writing, but I just wanted to highlight that because I wouldn't want other people to be in that position.
Sorry, absolutely. I'll certainly consider that because I can see your point, and it's almost it can become passive aggressive. I can see the point that how that would manifest and become difficult for a councillor. Yeah, certainly consider that. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'll certainly consider it.
I'm sure you can if nobody can. Who can?
Thank you.
Adam, are you going to talk again?
Yeah. Sorry to come back in. Just
Sorry.
just to add on what Councillor O'Brien said, she raises a very valid point in that I think, sorry if this is patronising or mansplaining, I think the word for it is parasocial relationships, and as we put ourselves out there as councillors, our constituents, our residents will in fact be building a parasocial relationship with us in that they can see what we're doing and they don't necessarily know us. So yeah, no, I just like to second that point and think that whereas it might not be something that is on the dangers, how to keep that sort of how to deal with abuse aspect of it, but just a part of a thing that we need to be mindful in that what we are effectively doing, and because we're trying to build parasocial relationships around our work as councillors. So just be mindful that's something that we need. I know it might not be something that every councillor is aware that that's what effectively they're doing when they broadcast their work to their residents. So yeah, just a second what Councillor O'Brien is saying on that, really.
Bridget?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I agreed with what everybody said, and yes, and the handbook is really concise and useful. And I don't know whether I've overlooked this, but is there something in there about councillor to councillor interaction? Because sometimes, we may not all be politically on the same page, but we shouldn't also be aggressive to each other online, especially when elections are coming up. And I don't know whether that should be, I don't know if I've missed it, but I think that maybe should be in there somewhere.
Point taken. I don't think it's required for this guide because that councillor versus councillor is covered in so many other areas within council policies. Specifically during an election period, we ask candidates to sign up to the what was it called? Basic civility and respect,
Yeah.
and we very much championed that back in 2022 within Swansea, with I think all group leaders at the time, with their candidates signed up to that, and I think it made a difference. Obviously, it's not led by the authority, but it certainly was something that the political group leaders did internally. There are councillor versus councillor systems in place to try and encourage that sort of behaviour not to happen. And of course, ultimately, there is the code of conduct itself.
Okay.
So I would argue there's plenty of things specific for that sort of behaviour.
Okay.
But just to remind you, if you feel you are subject to that sort of I'll use bullying for want of a, which I'm not saying which term we're falling into. I'll use bullying as the generic term here. You should be reaching out to their group leader, and the group leader should be taking it seriously. And ultimately, if you want to bring it to the councillor versus councillor, the word is the councillor versus councillor. Thank you, Peter. Dispute resolution protocol that will bring about a meeting of the Star Chamber, which could ultimately see that councillor disciplined internally, not under the code of conduct. But yeah, there's processes there, and it may be worth my while just perhaps doing an email out to remind councillors that those things are in existence.
Might be worth it, Hugh. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, Hugh, because it's not nice. We're all the same. We're people before we're councillors. We may not be on the same page with our political views, but there is no need for anybody to be unpolite, rude, or anything. And that is one of my mantras for You know, we may not like it when we're sitting in the council chamber because it does annoy you sometimes on both sides or all four sides. But just be polite. Mair? Mair, you're muted. Mair, you're on mute.
Okay, one sec. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Wendy. Thank you. Brilliant report. Really happy with it. Since I first became the ward councillor on a by-election, you were my first committee I ever sat on. This was brought up and we've come a long way on this report. I've had a little bit of bullying of tenants, but it's just nothing. I get over it. I am thick-skinned. But it's a good report about emails. I have read it, and I don't think we could take that any further than can be taken. You've given us the right information that we needed. For when I first became a ward councillor, I depended on my counterparts up here, Erica and Terry. I had no handbook or nothing. I just thrown in the deep end and got on with it. And it's brilliant to see this handbook coming up. And for newly elected ward councillors and for us ward councillors as well to have a good read of it when it is finally out in print for us. That's all, Wen.
Thanks, Mair. I'm really disappointed you didn't say I've helped you in this committee.
Thank you, Wen.
Thanks, Mair. No one else? No. Okay, here.
Well, just to summarise, then I'll take those comments on board, and yeah, just to thank Adam. Parasocial is a completely new term for me, and I will be googling that later to learn more, and I shall certainly. I think it helps address Francesca's point then. So thank you all for that. It's very useful.
Thanks, Hugh. Agenda item 5, personal safety for councillors. Over to Hugh again.
I'll be honest with this one. This is very much a rebadged report that has been brought before you before. I just thought it hasn't been before you for about 3 years, and I thought it's just worthwhile just bringing it back because it sits sort of alongside the online abuse and things. So just reminding you basically about some simple actions you can take when you're in a face-to-face environment. Nothing specifically to add to it other than to consider when you are out and about, you are effectively lone working. So make sure that you tell your partners, your friends, your neighbours, so you tell somebody where you are, so that if there is an issue and you're not back by a certain time, they can contact the police or try and contact you, what have you. So, you know, it's all about personal safety, and these are obvious things that you have got to do yourselves. Again, I've put some useful resources in this report, just setting out some links for you to read. There's one I particularly like there, which is a practical guide for councillors, again by the local government association. That's quite useful, and it's about when you're in your ward surgeries, for argument's sake, when you set it up, put yourself, make sure you are not trapped in that room. Put yourselves closer to the door and the resident further in the room. So if you do need to make that getaway, you're on the door side of that meeting. I'd hope these things wouldn't happen, but equally, you have got to consider your personal safety. And I'm sure that 99.9% of the time you are safe, but there are things you've got to consider yourself to look after yourself. So just a report just to that's come before. It's just just as acting as a reminding policy. That's all.
Thanks, Hugh. It's still worrying to me that we still have to consider these things. I can't have a surgery anymore because there is nowhere for me to go. I can't do it on my own. Can't have hubby with me because it's personal. So I can't even do one, but it works in our village or it's not. they can contact me. But it is still worrying that you were still revisiting these kind of things, or take up boxing like I did. Easy. Have you got any questions on this? No?
Can I just come in quickly? Sorry, Peter. Can I just come in very quickly? Picking up on the ward surgery side, and it is a difficult one, and it's personally, and I'll perhaps controversial here. I'm not a huge fan of ward surgeries, if I'm brutally honest about it. I tend to agree that they are outdated. I firm believer in buy a dog and walk around the village, and you'll be seen by people more frequently, and you'll be engaged, because these days people are not going to wait a month or a week or whatever your frequency is to come and see you. So just put yourself out there using social media, being mindful of the earlier guide, and just being approachable in that sort of way. So don't feel obliged to do ward surgeries. Obviously, speak to your group leaders. They might have a totally different view to me, but it's about engaging, and that's the point you're trying to do. How you engage, you've got to choose what's best for you as councillors and for your community.
And another thing, allow about 6 hours if you're going on the road, because you will be chatting to every person going along. But it helps. You can get potholes, you can get anything, any work done if you walk out instead of sitting in a room once a month. Thank you, Hugh. Oh, yeah. Peter?
Okay, yeah, but I think it sort of splits into sort of councillors who've been elected a long time. I mean, when I was first elected, obviously, your name and address was public. You now have the option to put your address on the ballot paper. I tend to do, and my group does. Addresses are now taken off the council website. It's a shame. I prefer my address to be on, because it's everywhere else. It's possibly because we've come from an era where it didn't used to happen, and the newer councillors have sort of walked into this now, because unfortunately it's a trend that started possibly in the last decade. But saying that, I mean, we've unfortunately we've had an attack on one of my group, Stuart Rice, a couple of weeks ago. We found out what it was. Somebody got a mallet and started belting his windscreen until it went through. Not very nice. He's got kids. Similar to the attack I had on myself in 2009, when somebody set fire to the car and blew it up outside the house. At the time, I had a 2-year-old, I had a 9-year-old, and I also had a 12-year-old. So at the end of the day, we are human beings. I take the view that we shouldn't go hiding back. In fact, it makes me more determined. But on the other hand, possibly I'm a bit more sort of brazen and brave, possibly stupid, and I ought to start looking after myself a bit more, and members of my group, because times aren't what they are. And I can see Chess there on the screen, and I remember her father has an incident long time ago on the skirts of Brimmill Park, where he was attacked as well. But I understood the other guy came off worse.
Thanks, Peter, for sharing. All right. Yeah. Agenda item 6, councillors ICT allowance policy May 22 and beyond. Over to who?
Sorry, it's all me tonight. That's the way it goes sometimes. I'm looking to make a very small amendment to the policy. It's just allowing councillors to be able to spend the ICT allowance in a slightly different way, which adding an element really. I'm looking to add an element to allow money to be spent on smart technology and related subscriptions for safety and well-being purposes. And that's the only amendment. It's outlining, it's just a rewriting of paragraph 6.1. If you approve the proposal, I'll take it to council for approval, but nothing to add other than that. I'll support it.
Yeah. Do you all support Everyone? Peter? Yeah, on me. Thanks, Hugh. Agenda item 7, Councillor's Annual Report. Over to Hugh.
Thanks again. Yeah, and nearly there, people. Lost the page. Where it is, item 7. Councillor's Annual Report. Just to remind you, councillors have the right to produce a councillor annual report. It is set in legislation about size. It's for a backbench councillor, then it's 2 sides of an A4 page, and for a cabinet member, it's 3 sides of an A4 page. Obviously, because they've got to touch on their portfolio work. That's the difference. The guidelines are set out in the report. Paragraph 12 of the report tells you about the sizes that I've mentioned. It also tells you when they should be published, etc. They must be bilingual. So obviously, if you choose the right one, you send it to us and we get it translated. I've attached then in Appendix A the guidance relating to annual reports, and then in Appendix B, and Appendix B is the template that would be used. The template is what the template is, but this report is just reminding you that you can do it. This will sit on the website, so if a councillor looks at, if a member of the public chooses to see what work you've done over the previous year, they can look, and it's there. I know that some cynical people will say, well, you can use it for election purposes. Well, quite frankly, you would, and why wouldn't you? But that's the whole point in many ways. But it's also to reassure the community the work you are doing. My only tip, if you go down the councillor annual report, would be don't try and write it at the end of the year. Just jot down what you've done throughout the year, because it's very difficult to remember what you've done over the year. And some of those smaller things you've done might be quite big. So just jot down throughout the year, perhaps every first of the month, jot down what you did last year. So when you compile this list at the end of the year, you've got an easy list to make. And it's only 2 pages you haven't got much room to write anything. So it's headline stuff, really. But please do it, because it's useful for you, but it's also useful for the community to know what you're actually doing. Nothing to add on that.
Thanks, Hugh. I'm guilty of only ever doing 2. And I think you forget about it. You do forget about it.
That's 2 more than I've done, Wendy.
Oh, well, we're not a very good group then, are we? Anybody on there done theirs? Silence is golden. Hugh is right, though. I think it is good. Mair? You muted again.
That's it. Right. We got 3 ward councillors who are in Penderry. So do we do a report between us, or do we do individual reports? Because we usually, the 3 of us, work together unless we do in separate casework.
Yeah, it's an individual report, but obviously if you wrote one between you all, it will be published 3 times, because it's your work, not their work. Because the actual report will talk not only about the work you've done, it'll also set out your attendance. It sets out an opportunity for you to write down your special activities, your specific learning that you've done, not what all 3 of you have done. So there are specific areas there that are specific to you, not to the work of the 3 of you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Maya. Anyone else? No, I don't know. Is that all on Hugh?
Seems to be.
Ooh. So we finished the agenda. Now I'll hand over to Hugh again.